episode 127. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
Anytime you say we're about to go live, I immediately try and drink a soda before we start, and I saw that look.
And I try to
me.
say the intro faster every single time.
Yeah, just trying to get my caffeine.
It snowed yesterday.
It did.
It snowed here yesterday. It's April and it snowed.
Makes no
Not
damn
that it
sense.
doesn't snow in April, but and then it's gonna be like 70 degrees on Saturday. So.
Oh, we're supposed to get like 85. Like we're supposed to get like real bad weather, but.
I'm tempted to try to go to a Tigers game this week because Miguel Cabrera is supposed to get close to like 3,000 hits, like, and the Tigers are home for like 6 straight days.
So you might get one of those games.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see.
You were trying to get his home run game, but you missed it.
We went to a game. We were already talking about going to a game in general then, and I really I wanted to go to a baseball game when the atmosphere was better. And you'll understand this because you're a Sox fan and they've sucked for a long time and they've been good and then they've been bad and they've been good and they've been bad. When they're bad, when your teams are bad and you go to the ballpark on like an afternoon game or a Monday night game in May and there's like 6,000 people there, it's boring.
It could be boring, but that's when you can like fuck around and pretend you're rich and then move to the good seats.
Yeah, but the atmosphere of the ballpark is boring.
Oh yeah, it's the worst, but you can at least be like, oh, this is what it like to have money.
I went to a game during the pandemic, for my birthday it had to have been last year, and it was in May, obviously, and it was so bad. Mm-hmm. Like so bad. And then my father-in-law calls me like the next day, like, hey, like I got tickets to the game and my buddy bailed. Do you want to go? And I'm like, he's like, you don't have to pay for it. And I'm like, no.
You're like, no, it's not worth it.
I was like, no.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts every Thursday on the podcast services. We stream Tuesday nights typically, twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming, where you can catch us live between 7 and 8 o'clock Eastern. Safe to say. And if you could leave us a review if this is your first time listening, or if it's your 100th time listening or your 127th time listening and you haven't left us a review, if you could do that, that'd be super helpful. Whether it's Spotify, Podcast Addict, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever the heck those things are called, anywhere that you can leave a review helps the show. It helps us to move up in algorithms that we don't understand, but with all the topics we've been talking about the last couple weeks, you can definitely see some spikes in the downloads, and we want to kind of like, hopefully, if you're a new listener in the last month or so, like maybe you hang around, join the community, join the Facebook group, join Discord. Any of those links are in the show notes, so you can check those out. Send us some questions, and maybe buy a T-shirt or a hoodie that you take off when it's 85 degrees, but put on at night when you run your heater in your car, because that seems to be the way the weather's going, at least on the Midwest for the last couple weeks. So there's a Teesprings there, and our Patreon is there also. So with all of that, we're going to jump right into the news, and I don't really want to hear these two words again.
Yeah, because you're a weird dude. Amy Hennig is working on a Star Wars game, so it was announced today that the former Uncharted director-writer is going to be working on a Star Wars project with the studio Skydance New Media, which is a studio she joined to basically head that video game department. Skydance started in 2010 by David Ellison, and they are like a movie production company, and they have been expanding into different forms of media. So Amy Hennig has announced her second project with Skydance New Media, and that is a Star Wars project. The first one being a Marvel project that was announced last year that we got like no information on exactly what was being done, but now I guess whatever work has been completed on that Marvel game, Disney is like, do you want to do a Star Wars? Especially because Disney's just going to everybody and going, do you want to do a Star Wars?
And for the record, I'm a huge Amy Hennig fan. So the two words that I'm tired of hearing right now are Star Wars.
Okay.
So, not Amy Hennig.
Okay.
And I also feel like whatever she was doing for the Marvel project, she probably has written. Mm-hmm. And now she is either written some of this or is starting to write this. My opinion is that whatever she was doing for Volition, for EA, it was Volition or whomever.
Yeah,
it was,
whatever 1313, whatever that game was.
Whatever narrative-driven thing that she was doing for them that got canceled, there are significant parts of that in this.
I wonder, because that was what I was thinking earlier. I'm just like, I wonder how much of that can be used. Or
Oh yeah, I'm curious. Like, she's the writer, so does she own her writing because it never turned into anything?
Yeah.
That would be the part that I'd be fascinated about. Like, she probably has a ton of a ton of scripts, I guess, if you want to call them, or things and whatever characters development or story arcs that she's writing, or has written. Like, I'm sure that there are pieces of it all that all come together, or like chapters that she kind of like moves around, inserts, puts in, puts out. The reason that I'm tired of hearing about Star Wars is because, like, if they're just announcing this now and they're using Amy Henning as the gotcha person of like, hey, we're doing this and she's doing this, which just sounds fascinating, it's probably 5 years out.
Yeah, I almost wonder, like, looking at Skydance New Media, I wonder if they haven't produced any games as far as I know. They've worked with other developers to produce stuff based on some of the IPs they have, for the movie stuff. But I'm wondering if literally it's just like Amy Hennig's got an idea, sell it to Star Wars, sell it to Marvel, and then they find a studio that matches with it. They would probably announce that aspect if that was part of the deal.
Right, but I also don't think if that was the case that they wouldn't be Amy Henning is known for her writing, so they wouldn't say, hey, we partnered with Amy Henning and we gave her the script.
No, but I would I wonder if it's just one of those things where it's like Amy Hennig's got a Marvel script for a game, push it out to another developer. Star Wars script for a game, push it out to another developer. Because I wonder, can Skydance New Media, can they produce two games at the same, or kind of roughly the same time, and what size and scope they're going to be. But whatever it was, Disney was impressed and with the Marvel project enough to be like, let's do this now, and we'll see what happens. But I just wonder if like EA is just gonna look at anything that happens, be like, that character is very similar to the one that she wrote for us that we canceled, or the second time she was writing a Star Wars game for us and we canceled that again. I wonder what traps.
That would be the part of the world that I'd be super curious about, of like, okay, so you guys, like, I came to EA, you brought me here because I showed you, I don't even know, I'm just going to spitball here, I showed you 4 of my intended 12 chapters and you liked it. And then I got to 7 chapters and you canceled the game.
Yeah.
And then, but it's mine. Like, it's my right. It's physically her 2 hands and her brain.
Yeah.
So like, and do they own Project Henning? Like, and Star Wars Project Henning? Like, does EA own that?
Yeah.
And then also what happens when it's canceled, when they formally say, hey, like, this game is canceled and the studio is now closed, but it was not technically an intellectual property, right? I mean, I don't know because it didn't turn into anything.
It depends on like what type of employee she was under contract, in terms of, there are some contracts with like mine.
Kojima's contract with the Konami, like, we own whatever you think.
There was the thing with I forget his name, but there was the id Tech person was helping, basically left Bethesda id Tech or whatever to go work with Oculus, and then Bethesda sued Oculus to be like, hey, some of those things that he was working on with you, he actually started here, so we own the rights to that. Basically coming down to like, he did that on company computer. Tech we provided to the company, he wrote on, so now we're going to be at battle in a lawsuit. So I wonder what type of contract that is.
I'd be fascinated with it. Like, as an example, if Microsoft hires somebody from Epic specifically to work on Unreal, like, okay, we want you to come work on all of our games because of your Unreal engine technical greatness that you can do with the engine and the way you optimize stuff. We want you to work directly for us. We'll double your salary or whatever. And then the skills that he learned to work on that engine, Epic's like, no, he can't use those for you.
Well, we actually saw something kind of in the same vein when PUBG sued Epic, because remember, Epic was the engine behind PUBG and their Battle Royale, and then when Epic made their Battle Royale Fortnite, Tencent / PUBG were like, hey, we used you guys as the engine maker to help us develop this, and now suddenly you're doing what we're doing, and that leads to like a gray area of like, as the engine maker, how much control do they have? Can they use secrets that they used with you on their own stuff? So I wonder, especially like, I'm sure when Amy Hennig like wrote this like 1313. I think it was 1313 that was hers. Or no,
I thought she was working on a narrative-driven thing.
Yeah,
like,
well, that was the one
on a different story.
Yeah, so it wasn't 1313. It was the visceral one, the one after 1313. Yeah. But was it like Ragtag, codename Ragtag or something like that? Yeah. But I wonder, you know, if she pitched stuff to where it's like, oh, I have this idea, and EA's like, pass. I have this idea. Pass. I have this idea.
Right.
Greenlit. Like, I wonder what that sort of thing happens. I'm sure the lawyers figured that out. To your point, she does a great Marvel thing that Lucasfilms or whatever likes and says, hey, what else do you got? Well, I've got these couple Star Wars things. Oh, let me see them. And she gives them like 4 Star Wars, as an example, like sketchbooks. Mm-hmm. And they say, oh, we like number 3. Like, so we're gonna allow you to go farther with number 3, and you can now start using, again, Boba Fett. You can use that name instead of Star Wars guy. Yeah. So, yeah. I just wonder, since EA's getting out of the Star Wars thing and that kind of burned them, I just wonder how petty they would be willing to be. I doubt they would be petty because it's just not worth the effort.
Really?
Petty as in terms of, like, let's take Disney to court. You know, they'll take any smaller person to court, but they're not going to take Disney to court. No one wins from that.
just to be clear, Skydance has not made a game to our knowledge, right?
I tried looking it up. I mean, they've worked on partnerships with other stuff, but like smaller things.
So they're like they've been like an auxiliary studio kind of?
They've been an ideas place. Like they basically have been like, hey, we have ideas or we have IPs, and then they branch out to
this
other
might
people.
be the best thing for her then, if that's the case, where she works for this company that, you know, has the, like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like Amy Henning, if walked into Lucasfilms and said, hey, I would like to have a meeting with your board. Oh, what's your name? I'm Amy Henning. Like, they'll pay attention versus like Skydance Media scheduling the appointment. Now, do you have to like pay a certain amount of money to get these rights, and Henning can't pay that herself? But then when they say, okay, yep, you have the, you know, like the right to negotiate or the right to write this story, and you give it to us and we'll buy it from you. You know, then she gets like a percentage of that. And so maybe that this Skydance Media is like her bankroll or her investor.
Yeah, especially in terms of like what they've done. They basically, any Tom Hanks movie you can think of, that's Skydance New Media. Okay. So they
got cash.
Yeah, they did the last couple Mission Impossible movies. They just did that Adam Project with Ryan Reynolds on Netflix. So like they have movie cash.
I kind of want to watch that, by the way. I started it and then I stopped. So I was like 30 seconds in and I stopped because I got distracted.
And then when it comes to interactive, the only thing that they have is like a Walking Dead Saints and Sinners game, and then Archangel, which was, I think, a VR game. So they have 2 games under their belt, and then just a bunch of like movies and television projects they've worked on or helped deliver. I'm just trying to look. Yeah, so Skydance did the Jack Ryan TV show. Yeah, and they do Grace and Frankie, which I think was a show that was like on TNT forever, and now it's on Netflix. So like they do mostly movies and television. Yeah. So that's why I think like it's perfect for her, because she could just be an idea person there and doesn't actually have to.
There's probably
something.
People that work for Skydance that have great relationships with people that work for Disney just from the TV aspect or the movie aspects, you know, in terms of negotiation and producing and sharing ideas and all that stuff. So it's very interesting. Like, and I hope that for her sake, like we've talked about before, like the girl, the woman, I'm sorry, that's doing the new Sony acquired studio,
Jade Raymond, who was
Montreal.
Her partner in the Star Wars project. Yeah,
I just hope that eventually, like these things come to fruition for these talented people, because we keep hearing about these little teases like, oh, Amy Henning's working on A, oh, now that got canceled. Now she's working on B, oh, that got canceled. Now she's working on C, oh, that got canceled. Like, we're starting to talk, and again, I it's not a criticism of her, but it is a factual thing. The last thing that she did that came out, I believe, was Uncharted 3.
Yeah, and Uncharted 3 was that like really Uncharted 3.
Was it 3 or 4 that she left in the middle
4.
of?
4. Like 4 got rebooted, basically, like its first year in.
So the last thing that she kind of did start to finish was Uncharted 3. Yeah. And what are we looking at, like 13 years now?
Maybe not that long, but probably like...
But 10?
10, yeah.
11?
Probably like 9 or 10.
Yeah, so like that's That's a lot. And then again, like if this Marvel project she wrote last year is 3 years out, and then the Star Wars project she's writing or written now is 4 years, 5 years out, like you might be talking about a 15-year window of projects from her. That sucks for somebody that is like was as talented as she was for 1, 2, and 3 of Uncharted.
Yeah. Especially if it's like an idea person who's like writing these amazing scripts, and then it's just like, and nothing happens. Wrote another amazing thing.
Wouldn't you want to see like one of these like wouldn't you want to see one of these people's desks?
I would love to read if she did a biography, because like she's been in the video game industry for so long.
What's in that composition notebook? Oh, that's just a story that I wrote about Garfield. Can I read it?
Yeah. Well, no, it's like Guillermo del Toro, director, writer. He has like notebooks that he just calls his monster notebooks, which is literally just doodles that he draws of like interesting creatures that he thinks of. And then they eventually get turned into movies. But like, I always wanted to look at those notebooks, and a writer's notebook like Amy Hennig is probably
like you brought up like Tom Hanks. Like, how many hours of deleted scenes does he have that nobody's ever seen?
Yeah.
You know? Like, like, how many movies does he have like 85% completed that nobody's ever seen? Mm-hmm. That he has like the B-roll of, or like the uncut footage of? Like, I don't even know if he has it. Like, if somebody like, you know,
well,
like
directors.
Who was it? Like you were talking about, like The Office. Like when it didn't they say they wrote more seasons of The Office? Yeah,
that always happens. Like usually shows don't think they're going to get canceled when they get canceled, so they practice like the next couple scenes. So it's definitely.
No, he said anything that Tom Hanks has done is a Skydance thing.
No, Tom Cruise.
And then they've done Mission Impossible.
No, Tom Cruise.
Oh, okay. You said Hanks.
Did I say Hanks? If I said Hanks, I meant Cruise. Yeah. But yeah, they've done a bunch of stuff. But yeah, they're like, I always would love to see like the canceled projects. Like how far they got along,
or especially like a show that we're interested in that only went 3 seasons and it just ended. Like, wait, I know you wrote the stuff.
I still bother the writer for Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles like every couple years. And every couple years he tweets back saying like, if I told you the ending, you wouldn't be interested in it anymore. And it's just like, fair enough.
So before you move on to the next story, because this kind of ties into it with as much Skydance stuff as we were talking about, did you see, or am I wrong? I think I saw it in a Discord server I'm in. Did Amazon buy MGM?
I don't know. I saw some weird stuff. I thought MGM was completely defunct. Like it's not a thing anymore.
Okay. I saw it in one of the Discord servers I'm in, and there was people complaining about something and then saying, "Oh, they do everything," and then I got distracted and moved on. So I don't. If I'm wrong, like I'm sure somebody will tweet at me.
It looks like they did.
Okay.
So yeah, it looks like they are in the process or have been already acquired. So we'll see. Amazon's desperate for content, so it makes sense to go after MGM.
All right. I didn't mean to derail it off your agenda. Sorry.
Okay. The next bit, very, very vague bit of gaming news in this, but the Warner Brothers Discovery deal finally closed as of like 2 weeks ago, and one of the big things that the new head of Warner Brothers Discovery wants to do is to overhaul DC and do an overhaul with the games department. So according to Variety, the new owners are looking to overhaul the troubled brand in films and television, and they want to bolster the gaming division. So currently, the games that are DC related in the Warner Brothers, do they have Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment division? Is Gotham Knights, Suicide Squad, The Wolf Among Us, and a Wonder Woman game. So Warner Brothers Discovery is looking to just reboot all of the DC universe yet again. And there seems to be like a big emphasis with the Discovery people that they're just kind of upset that Superman just doesn't matter anymore. So looks like that is going to be something they're going to focus on. It is kind of complicated though, because like the Batman just passed $750 million worldwide. So it's just like, I hope the reboot
before hitting HBO Max.
Which it did yesterday. So
which I'm sure some people will subscribe to HBO Max for just for that.
Yeah,
100%.
Oh, for sure. So I hope their reboot includes just like, okay, let's use the Batman since it's separated from all that stuff, and then run from there. But like, that's a mess. But it does sound like they are really interested in video games, which is the thing that we were wondering, will Warner Brothers Discovery give a shit about the video games division? And Warner Brothers Discovery apparently see money to be made there, specifically with all the DC characters that you can make games from. That seems to be a very big point of contention with them, is they feel Warner Brothers has not used the DC characters well in the video game sphere and film and television.
Yeah. So it's super interesting. Like, we were wondering are they going to branch off or split off the video game division, try to sell it? You know, how does that work? How do you sell Batman video games but keep Batman movies? Like that, you know, like that's where it got really, really weird. And if they're for it, it could possibly just be because they're for it because they want it to integrate with the metaverse.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm terrified of a Wonder Woman game at this point in time.
Yeah, especially if
think
it's not
it would
Rocksteady.
be really cool, but yeah. And then based on whatever script, hopefully they don't use the script from the second movie.
Yeah, no. I'm sure it'll be completely separated, especially because they want to... Sounds like they just want to wipe the DC stuff that was made previously clear, which totally makes sense to do at this point.
Yeah. I mean, if they can keep the Flash from not getting arrested,
that's part of the problem. Is like they were like, they now have a movie that's been delayed till next year.
He got arrested again today.
Oh, really? Oh, God. Yeah. So that's a problem. To keep having to push that movie back, and then Ezra Miller is just a mess of a human right now. Yeah. But yeah, I don't. Do you feel like Warner Brothers previously has misused like the DC characters video game wise? Or they did the best they could. Like, you got Batman games out. Like, that's cool.
Yeah. I think that part of the problem is, like, we can look back at, like, any kind of licensed video game and, like, yeah, the Batman Arkham stuff, like, set the bar. And things have gotten a little bit better, I would say, in the last 5 to 7 years. But it's hard to say if I want to say that Warner Brothers mismanaged it or the talent wasn't where it needed to be in the video game industry to make it right, to make them right.
And that talent could also be on the management side for not getting the developers to funnel through a thing, especially when you look at Rocksteady, their output. Like, because
I feel like let's just talk very vague again right now. So if we had a Superman game, okay? So, and they essentially carbon copied the Arkham style, even if Rocksteady did or didn't do it. Or if let's just say Rocksteady did it. They used the same engine tech, the same mechanics. I think that the media and the fan base would be like, I don't want to play a reskin Batman game as Superman. Yeah,
and well, that would be tricky. Well, the problem is I feel like they would reskin a bunch of the characters in the Arkham format, just because it would be easier and a lot of heroes translate. I mean, that's what Gotham Knights is.
If Gotham turned into Daylight Metropolis and he did a lot of and he was able to fly around fly around Metropolis and do all this stuff and there's these big scenes, but at its core you see a ton of the Arkham Foundation. I think people would rip it apart.
Yeah, you would definitely want something new, especially because Superman is very different. But I totally see your point of like they would probably just reskin Arkham with Superman, and that would just
but
make sense.
But at the same time, like I've talked about for months, I would be totally fine with them literally taking every single aspect they used in Arkham and just putting the Ninja Turtles in there.
Yeah, no, I know. That's the big thing. But like when you look at like, I know Monolith is doing the Wonder Woman game, but the Wonder Woman game is probably going to look very similar to how the Arkham games played and
right. Yep.
And that just
and I'm saying that, and I expect Gotham Knights to be almost an Arkham copy, just with co-op, and I'm for it.
Yeah,
because it's still in the same world and the same universe. But you could switch out any WB character that I said with Superman and put them in there and be like, okay, who would you want to do it? Oh, we want Rocksteady to do it. Why? Because of the combat. Okay, well that doesn't work for you. Can't like.
Well, and the funny thing,
Superman's not a hand-to-hand combat fighter.
Yeah.
You know?
He is, but it's very simple, like one punch and you're done sort of scenario.
Right. Yeah.
And like Gotham Knights is going to play exactly like the Arkham games because like Warner Brothers Montreal made an Arkham game, and that's what they were told to do, and that's probably what they're going to do again. So like I'm glad Warner Brothers Discovery is interested in like expanding the universe. I wonder if the Suicide Squad is going to be that test of like, can we do something like it? Okay. I think we've had this discussion before. I don't think the Suicide Squad's an interesting enough franchise to be making movies and games off of just because it's so obscure. It only works for comics. Though, like the movies, it's fine. You know, the recent one was okay. I feel the same way about games, and I almost feel like Warner Brothers is going to expect something crazy from Suicide Squad performance-wise,
right?
And it's just not going to be there because of the characters that you're playing as.
Well, it's going to be Avengers 2.0, but with people that care about the characters less.
Yeah, except for like, oh, here's Flash and he's bad, and here's Superman and he's bad. And I worry that Warner Brothers Discovery...
But I have a hard time when you market a game and the marketing of the game is surrounded by the villain when the villain's not the focal point of the game.
Especially if it's not the marquee villains, you know? Like,
correct.
If it's...
You can't Far Cry market this game.
Yeah, especially like if it was the Joker, cool, that's a gigantic character that people know, but instead it's King Shark,
but
Harley Quinn.
Yeah, but you also like in terms. Okay, speaking from a Destiny perspective, a Division perspective, For Honor perspective, like all these other games as a service, you market the hell out of the game at launch, get the player invested in playing the game, and then sprinkle the content in.
Yeah.
Okay. Suicide Squad being a freestanding property already, you automatically kind of segregate your audience immediately from there. I'm not a Suicide Squad fan. I'm not playing the game. Like that happens right away. Mm-hmm. And then you start trying to use the marketing of you can take on Superman. Yeah, that might work at launch, but then how do you market it 6 months down the line as an expansion?
Especially when you start with Superman. Like Superman should be
even if you don't start with, but I'm just saying, like, how do you market anything 6 months, 8 months? Like, that's the same problem we're seeing with Avengers. Like, the Black Panther thing might have been really cool, but people are already like, I'm worried about being behind in the game. Like, the surface reality of what people see, especially from a trailer or something, is so significant. Look at Guardians of the Galaxy. When we saw it revealed, they then had to come back and say, nope, it's a single player game because we saw multiple characters on the screen at the same time. We saw health bars. We saw numbers coming off. Like it was like looter, games of service, co-op, and then they're like, whoa, no, it's not any of that, and people still get confused by that.
Yeah, no,
you know, so like it's so hard to do something, and this is why you see so many trailers being so vague because of the ability to just dissect the mess out of a trailer. Like the Thor: Love and Thunder trailer just came out, and it's a 90-second trailer, and I've seen a YouTube video that's 30 minutes long breaking it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's how you keep people interested. But my fear, which was where we started on a couple minutes ago, is they're going to look at the Suicide Squad game, and that's going to be the litmus test on like what they do in the future. Right. And I feel like it's the wrong.
We want Suicide Squad to be FIFA.
Yeah, they're going to look at it and they're just going to be like, oh, that didn't work, so none of this is going to work. And it's just like, no, it didn't work because it was a Suicide Squad. Like you have the Justice League. Do a Justice League game.
Do you think it would, at this point in time, do you think it would work in the Justice League, though?
No, but I'm saying, like, if you're going to test the market and see, like, what people are interested in.
I think that they can win. I think they can 100% win and do well in the video game market if they stay away from the games as a service with these canon characters.
Oh, no, for sure. Like, if they just wanted to do, I mean, Sony's proven that with Spider-Man. Just do a single-player game, make it really fucking good, and it will do well. And
I'm at the point too with people's like and I think a lot of people might be to this, like I don't know any obscure characters in the Warner Brothers universe I can think off the top of my head, but give me a 7 to 10 hour story about superhero D. You know, $40, $60, whatever. You know, like have a cool, interesting story.
Give us a good Wonder Woman game, like they showed. Yeah. But instead, we're gonna get 2 live service-ish games, and then we'll get the Wonder Woman game. But by then, is DC gonna be like, oh, video games just don't work? And then it's gonna be like Wonder Woman's like, hey, this is good. This is a good single-player campaign. Please look at us. And DC's like, no. We got screwed with Gotham Knights, which was gonna get screwed no matter what based on how they've been treating it. And then Suicide Squad was full live service, and who knows how that's gonna go. By the time we get to Wonder Woman, DC Discovery is gonna, or Warner Brothers Discovery is gonna be like, we don't want to do this anymore.
And the public perception is so strange. Like, just looking again back at Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, like Deathloop is significantly better than Ghostwire Tokyo from everything I've been reading about reviews and seeing some stuff. And Ghostwire Tokyo seems to be going after a specific audience, even though it was marketed largely, in my opinion. But then people are like, look what Microsoft did to Ghostwire Tokyo. It's like, what? What?
Yeah. Yeah. It makes no sense. I just feel like Warner Brothers Discovery, like, I'm glad that we have some idea of what they want to do with video games. I just don't know if the stuff that was greenlit before they acquired them is going to really inform what their future really is. And then I feel,
because Gotham Knights is probably 85 or 90% done.
Yeah.
Before this, like, so like, and now they're gonna be like, well, look, we gave you this. Like, no, you didn't give us anything. We were 80% of the way through, and you maybe like helped us bankroll some better marketing.
Yeah.
But the game is the game is the game. Like,
the only thing we could probably hope for is like either these games are amazing. Gotham Knights is a super amazing game, and Suicide Squad super amazing, or we hope that they tank enough that Discovery goes, hey, let's do what they did with Spider-Man over at Sony, and then we get some like good single player games. But if Gotham Knights and
you're running out of studios to make those games there, but
yeah, no, but if Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad are middling, I feel like that would probably be the worst thing in terms of the
not
fans.
Terrible, not great, just like
to where they're just like, I guess we'll just run this again, and they just keep going with like middling like games as a service stuff. All right, the next bit, Kojima claims the studio will remain independent right after trolling fans. So this is a really dumb story, but who knows? It all could make sense in a couple weeks. So last week, on the PlayStation website, they updated their first-party studios banner to include Death Stranding, which sent everyone into a frenzy. Kojima then would follow this up by just retweeting that banner, and no context. This made people then just assume, oh shit, Kojima's that acquisition that's been rumored the last couple weeks. Look, he was included in the banner. Remember when Blue Point was in the banner before their acquisition was announced? Kojima then would later come out, I think almost right away, and to say like, hey, my studio is going to remain independent. Sorry if you got confused about me retweeting the first party banner with Death Stranding in it. So that basically is the gist of the news. Kojima was trolling and people were like, oh shit, it means he's been acquired. Jeff Grubb on one of his podcasts, he has like 4 now, basically said that PlayStation has not acquired Kojima Productions. He hasn't heard anything about them being acquired by PlayStation, but he, as of like a month or 2 ago, did see that like the Xbox Kojima deal is still in the middle of negotiations, and it's been in negotiations for like 6 months to the last year, mostly because of like language barriers and tech barriers that they're still trying to like sort through. So as far as he's aware, Xbox is still working on an exclusive game with Kojima. It's just taken a really long time because of all the red tape that you would have to do.
Kojima.
Yes, I'm assuming most of the red tape is Microsoft being like, these are hard dates you need to hit. Like,
I don't do that.
Yeah, and it's basically what that might be.
I make video game. Yes, we want you to make video game, but make it in this time. I make video game.
Yeah, and so people were freaking out about the Death Stranding stuff and like being in the banner, but like technically Death Stranding was a PlayStation studio.
The PlayStation Studios produced game.
Yeah, and
published game.
Like, I believe when you load up Death Stranding, I'd have to find my copy. It pops the PlayStation Studios logo at the beginning of the game because it was
got Gorilla's engine.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It has Gorilla's engine, and it was also like Gorilla helped develop it because it was their engine, and I think some other PlayStation Studios touched that game, despite Kojima owning the IP for it, because that's why it's 505 published it on PC. So yeah, this is just like Kojima trolling and then immediately being like, sorry, didn't mean to.
Oh, what, you misunderstood what I did?
Yeah, I just retweeted a picture. What's wrong with that? I think it's hilarious. Though it would be funny if he is negotiating with PlayStation, and then one of the lawyers are like, you better fucking retweet an apology denying this because we're still negotiating. and you might just screw up the entire deal. But yeah.
Can you imagine being somebody's lawyer? Why did you hit that button? Take it back.
Especially nowadays with like just social media, just being like, oh God, you tweeted that?
It's like, like a deleted tweet's not even safe
anymore. No, yeah,
people
archive it immediately.
Because people screenshot everything.
Yeah. So yeah, Kojima Productions, as far as we know, has not been acquired by PlayStation. And even then, like, every person that knows about this acquisition has been saying it is a huge, major acquisition. And I'm sorry, I don't think Kojima Productions qualifies as a major acquisition. That would be...
I agree.
Yeah,
that's Ubisoft.
Yeah, EA, Rockstar, something big. Kojima Production would be like, oh, why didn't they do that sooner? Yeah. But Dave, any thoughts on this other than like the Xbox deal is still going through, apparently?
The only thought I have of this is that, similar to the Amy Henning thought earlier, is like we're at a certain point in time where Death Stranding has been out. And we don't know what Kojima Productions is doing next. Mm-hmm. And that means that nothing's really been formally greenlit. So how many years are we away from when we find out that Kojima Productions is making a Stadia exclusive, a PlayStation exclusive, or an Xbox exclusive until it comes out?
I would bet...
Am I going to be a grandpa by then?
I would bet that whatever Kojima's making, it's already been a year in production. At least. Okay. At least concept. There was concept art, there was a story, there's a script written. It's just a matter of...
Does Kojima have the clout to say this is where I'm at with the game, and then any publisher is going to, but we want you to go this direction? Like, if this exclusivity deal that he may or may not sign with Microsoft, would this then be Microsoft changing his thing into one of their IPs?
No. Kojima has enough... Okay. You don't hire... at this point, you either hire Kojima to work on a Metal Gear game, or you hire him to work on whatever he wants, because Microsoft can't go like, what does a Kojima Gears game look like? They can't do that.
I get you. I'm just asking. Yeah. Like, I'm not a Kojima, as everybody knows, I'm not a Kojima fan. So
yeah, it would be you hire him to make the thing he wants. So I would assume whatever he's making, work has already started, but he needs funding to hit the finish line, and that's why negotiating with Xbox, and that's why I'm sure PlayStation has already asked, like, hey, do you want to partner up again? Because Death Stranding did well for them, especially given how fast that game was produced. I know you don't think it was fast, Dave, but, like, it went from him being fired...
The problem that I have that I don't think it was fast was from the announcement of Kojima to in a partnership with PlayStation Studios until Death Stranding came out.
And then when you look at it in the whole picture of, like, fired from Konami under a embargo,
under a do not compete clause.
Yeah, for a year, to announcing a game and then finding an engine and releasing it pretty fast.
And then, to also be fair, I think that my third child was born. Mm-hmm. A complete change in the video game world that I cover all happened from the time of that announcement until it came out.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff going on in my life at that time to extend time frames.
I'll give you that, but at the same time, video games are more complicated. So it's one of those things where...
Right. Again, and video games are more complicated to say, like, okay, so let's just say it's 2022. Let's just say that by... holiday of 2022, he signs a deal with somebody. Kojima Production signs a deal with somebody in November of 2022. When do we see said game?
2025. I would give him 3 years if there's already groundwork that has been laid out, because you would imagine he would have to pitch something.
It's kind of a long time in my opinion. But I understand that he hasn't signed a deal yet. He doesn't have the money to go farther. Like I see all of that, but I'm looking at the time frame of Death Stranding launch, next game. Like, you're talking like 8 years from one studio. I know it's an independent studio, and I'm not comparing these when I say this, but in that time frame, I think as an example from Drinkbox, we've seen Guacamelee 1, Guacamelee 2, Shattered, Nobody Saves the World. Like, I'm not comparing apples to oranges. Like, obviously, I know games, that, but I'm just like, like you look at, even back to Last Guardian. Like, all of Uncharted franchise came out from the time Last Guardian was announced until it came out. So
that instance makes sense, at least compared to Drinkbox, which, like, they make smaller games, and Kojima really likes working with Norman Reedus, so yes, it takes time.
I mean, I know, but at the same time, Kojima has 100 working under him, maybe.
Might be less, but yeah.
Yeah, and Drinkbox has 25.
Yeah, but
50.
Then apples and oranges at that point because it's a different size and scope. But I see some of your points there. But yeah, Kojima has not been acquired. The production company has not been acquired. It's probably gonna be a while till we hear who PlayStation acquired. And I just say that out loud, so then they announce it tomorrow, and then I have a soundbite of me being an idiot. So prove me wrong, Sony.
Well, you got to give Jim Ryan time to talk to GQ first.
I know, did the magazine just hit this month?
So he's got to get a new cigar. He's got to get a new pipe and a new jacket and a new fireplace.
Yeah.
For the article.
Yeah, and then May's issue's probably already written, right? So he has to at least do it next month, and then magazines are 2 months out, so it makes sense.
You're talking about stuff being already written and out. Did you see today Avengers announced new content?
No, I didn't. I completely missed that. Okay. And most video game websites that I looked at missed that.
Right, that care. Yeah. Have you seen the Thor Love and Thunder trailer?
Yes, I did see that.
Okay. So the character, spoilers for this, the Love and Thunder trailer. You get the warning now. So the character is a female Thor.
Yeah, the mighty Thor. Yeah.
Right. That's who they're putting in the Avengers.
I mean, it makes sense. Synergy. I saw
the concern amongst the Avengers community is that this is just going to be a reskin Thor.
For sure.
In terms of different layers and different leveling, and you're going to be leveling the same abilities for just a different character.
100%.
But it also it also leads the question that we had about, is Avengers content done? Well, maybe not.
But this was also this movie I think has been delayed twice. I think because of COVID. Yeah. So this content was probably lined up with Disney. Yeah. Of okay, Thor's releasing.
Oh yeah, obviously they could never show her until that trailer came out.
In the original contract, it was just okay, you can look at the future MCU movies slate. But you have to sign an embargo.
Even though it's not attached to MCU, but it is.
Yeah. Everything is just an advertisement, which is, why Marvel vs. Capcom... And
she won't look anything like the female Thor, but you can put her in the game. It's fine.
Yeah. It's why Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was such a trash fire, because they were just Captain Marvel has to be the marquee in this game. And it's just but what?
I wonder if somebody at Square Enix got an email last week. Hey, we got a green light on the Love and Thunder trailer, so you're good to go. And he's like, the hell is that file at?
They have to message Phil Spencer and be like, hey, can you get Dave from Crystal Dynamics to hit the button? Because we know you're working on Perfect Dark right now, but we totally forgot that we have to hit a button for the mighty Thor.
Yeah, and then the last quick thing I think you might have missed too, that I only saw when I was listening to a YouTube video on the way home today from work. Outriders is getting an expansion.
Oh, it finally, because I know that was a thing with Outriders. It's we don't know. It depends on how well the game does.
Yeah. So apparently there's going to be some preview content for this Outriders expansion coming out on Thursday, the day this podcast goes live. So this may make me try to think about playing Outriders.
And
because I believe it's still on Game Pass.
Yeah, Back 4 Blood got its expansion last week, so I need to drag my friends into Back 4 Blood again. Be like, hey guys,
drag my friends. Yeah, so that's your kind of fast paced quick hit news.
Yeah,
what it's gonna be like or not. So all right, what's delayed? So Witcher 3 next gen has been delayed. CD Projekt Red have pulled the next gen versions of Witcher 3 to in-house development. Shocking. No new release window was given, but the game was supposed to be a Q2 release. The studio Saber Interactive, Power Ranger studio,
one of them.
that was working on the games. Yeah, I know. The studio Saber Interactive that was working on the game are located in Russia, and that is likely the reason for the delay.
Yeah. So there's 2 Cyber Interactive studios, or there might be 3 now. There's Florida and Russia. And Russia was the one that did the Switch port and the 4K update for The Witcher 3. They were doing the next-gen version of Witcher 3, but because they're in Russia, it's really complicated to work with a Russian studio right now, so sounds like The Witcher or CD Projekt Red had to just pull that in house, but they couldn't tell us when the game will release now, because I'm sure that transfer is not easy right now with it being a Russian studio.
Right.
So they said it's not going to be a major release or delay. Like they said it won't be like a gigantic delay, but they still wouldn't give a window. You would think they would just be like Q3 now, but
they might not be able to until they see where it is.
Yeah.
Like until they truly see where it is. Like they know what the studio was telling them where it was.
Yeah.
Now let's see where it really is when we put it in our system.
Yeah, and then especially CD Projekt Red, condemned Russia for the war in Ukraine, or the invasion of Ukraine. So, like, who knows what Saber Interactive had to do at that point once that, CD Projekt made public statements.
Like, as an example, as crazy as it sounds, is that maybe whoever's running Saber maybe is for what's going on. It's a stretch, I know.
Specifically that Russian office,
we've seen
possible,
weirder stuff. So,
but, like, Saber Interactive is headquartered in Florida, so I'm sure...
Right.
That office is, not a problem, but like the Russian office specifically could be an issue.
And for their safety, sometimes what they say and what they do are two completely different things, because Putin's weird.
Yeah, especially the Russian studio, like who knows what restrictions they're under right now. So CD Projekt Red just had to just pull it in-house, but they couldn't give an update on when that will end up being released. And also, they can't afford for The Witcher 3 next gen to be broken or bad at all. So I'm not surprised that this was going to happen regardless of what's going on in the Ukraine. Eventually, CD Projekt Red was probably like, we need to see this to make sure it's good, because if this bombs a beloved game, is broken on PS5, that could be catastrophic for the studio. So,
absolutely. All right. So what we're playing and watching. So mine is not very much. We had 99% of it was my wife, but as a remodel of our back room while she was on spring break, and we had some flooring installed, so there was some stuff going on with that. And I've also just been kind of tired, just coming home from work a little bit, just kind of mentally tired. So I've been putzing and watching some garbage on TV. I have downloaded Hollow Knight on 3 different devices on my PlayStation, on my Xbox, and on my PC. I'm leaning towards the PC and Xbox just because it's very easy to play an hour on the couch, come downstairs, play on the PC and stream, and then the file just goes back and forth. So that is very high on the list. As well as I did dabble a little bit in Destiny one or two nights. I did some of the Grandmaster Nightfall stuff just to get some materials, just to be kind of ready. And then I did the weekly raid with the group. We're getting a little bit smoother at the run. It sounds like today their highest tier, with air quotes, of content that they're doing with the master raid, the master level raid version. Is a swing and a miss. Not necessarily the difficulty, but the rewards. Like they did it again. They missed. You can craft guns in Destiny now. You can then level the gun in Destiny to a point where you craft higher tier perks. And then now you do a harder version of the raid, and you get a non-craftable version of the gun that doesn't have as good of perks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just dumb. Like, there's these enhanced perks in the game that you have to level your weapon up. Get, I don't even know what the exact number is, get, 1,500 or 1,700 kills with the weapon, or do so many activities with the weapon, and you level the weapon up, and when you get above, like, level 20, you start unlocking some more stats and some additional traits that cost materials to craft, and you have to earn those materials in other activities, and then you go bang your head against the wall in this hard version of the raid and get a lesser reward.
Mm-hmm.
That you can't even make the lesser reward better eventually. Like, that's a miss. Like, I'm not going to do that. So, like, I don't understand. So,
is there for Destiny right now? Like, how far does their roadmap go out in terms of, like, are you
this season?
When's this? How long are they? Their seasons?
Their seasons have been consistently 90 days. 90 days. So,
okay.
like, Witch Queen came out February 20th or 22nd. So you're gonna get next season in May. Mm-hmm. There's one of their live events coming up. Their, like, Guardian Olympic Games is coming up. hopefully they put a better spin on that to entice some stuff and have some reward in there to do it. Otherwise, I think I could sign in and get most of what I need to get done or want to get done within a day or two of most of their events lately, because they seem to be like a cosmetic cash grab. Double XP. It's their like double XP weekends. They're great for players that are trying to level up, that maybe don't have as much time to commit to stuff, and it gives you a reason to work on 2 or 3 things at a time. Like, they're fantastic for that. But a player that understands the game and the inner workings of the game as well as I do and most of my group does, like, I can power level so fast in that game and stack things and turn stuff in at certain times and do things at the right time that I don't have to worry about that. Like, it's almost like a routine for me now. Like, I think I'm like season pass like level like 150, and I barely even tried this season. Like, I just played. So, I mean, we'll see. Like I said, I'm at the point where if the group needs something done, or if there's an easier thing to do, like material upgrade, but for the most part, like, I'm kind of just playing the game to hang out with the friends, and hopefully there's some cool story content that's happening in it. And I'm fine if that's where it is. I'm totally fine. But don't release these things and put bullet points, to your point, like on the roadmap saying, hey, here's a new thing, and that new thing is a lesser rewarding event. Not cool. We didn't really watch anything crazy. So there's a lot going on. But I do have intentions of playing Hollow Knight and streaming it, and to kind of get back on my, but I also looked up like how long to beat Hollow Knight. It's like a 25-hour game.
Yeah, no, it's a beefy like indie game.
Yeah. But if it's not going to be like one that's going to like super stress me out, like, that's fine. If I can play like 2 hours every other day for a while, like, I'll be done in like 2 weeks. But that's it for me.
For me, it's been a ton of MLB The Show. I just completely fell into it this year. I think I tend to really like MLB around the same time the White Sox are competitive, which just kind of makes sense, because it's like, I just want to play against the White Sox and get rid of...
Oh, so the month of April?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It'll be a good month in summer before we start getting injured. But there's at least, like, part of me that's just really addicted to the franchise mode. I wish it was as in-depth as, like, the franchise mode used to be in terms of, like, managing, like, the stadium prices and stuff, but that stuff's not in there anymore. But I've just, immediately just picked up the White Sox, traded the players that I hate, which is just Dallas, Keuchel at this point, Kirchhoff. I always forget how to say his name. The announcers say his name 2 different ways, and it drives me nuts. But the real life announcers. And just trade him immediately for some garbage player. I didn't even care. I just wanted him off my team. And then just run with the White Sox. I'm doing pretty well. Like, I started at like whatever the after beginner, I think it's like rookie or something. I started at like... Yeah. Easy.
It has that dynamic. It has the dynamicness, right?
Yeah, like in the middle of a game.
If you start hitting too well, it changes.
Yeah, like
dynamic difficulty, I think.
Yeah, like in the middle of like my 4th game, it's like no, we're taking you off rookie, and then they bump me up to like the next higher one. And
you get pounded. They're like, okay, we'll dial it back.
And I have seen that, where one of my pitchers just got destroyed in the 6th inning, and it's like, okay, we'll just knock you down just a little bit, and then after I got my relief pitcher in there, it bumped me right back up. Which is I love that feature, just because you feel like you're improving and getting challenged as you play.
Well, you're still moving a needle,
Yeah, so I'm enjoying like that aspect of it. I'm like 15 games into the season. It's just kind of been my podcast game, where it's just like, let me just throw a podcast on because I'm tired of listening to the same announcers over and over again, with the same story. Though it's funny. I did notice. 2 things. Since I'm playing on Xbox, and the Xbox has a really good suspend state, I don't think it counts my logins. So every time you log in the game, it's like, you logged in, here's some card packs.
You're not getting your daily logins. Yeah. You're not getting your little stubs and your rewards. That's crazy. I didn't think about it. Yeah. Well, I thought you always had to have a connection to the Yeah.
No, but when it goes to sleep, it's just like, here's the menu that you were just in.
Breaking news: Michael's against quick play, quick resume.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it because actually,
I know what you're talking about. Like Destiny, I'll do the same thing. I'll just turn my PlayStation off. I'll have Destiny loaded up I'll be like in the social space, and I'll just put the PlayStation in rest mode and go to bed. And I come back the next day to turn my PlayStation on, and Destiny's there. Are you still there? Like, it kicked me out of the.
Yeah, and because the suspend actually works on Xbox consistently. Like,
Yeah.
I'll load up the game, and then I'll be like, oh, cool, let me just immediately hit play game, and then I'm just in the game. And then every once in a while, like, I'll have to quit out the game because I want to start, like, a couple other games.
Or a roster download, like a weekly roster download.
Yeah, or I think the Xbox firmware updated, and that actually killed my quick resume. So when I loaded up MLB again, it was like, you logged in 2 days in a row. And I'm like, no, I've been logged in for about a week and a half. Like, even though I don't use...
I never thought about that. Like, that's crazy.
Even though I don't use any of those card packs and daily login stuff, but it's still...
well, sometimes there's a cool cosmetic thing in there, like an armband or a bat wrap or something.
But it was just funny because I realized, I'm like, oh, crap.
Well, yeah, you don't even really dabble with Road to the Show, so that...
Yeah, well, I used to, and now it's just like, if I do, I probably have to quit the game, like, every time I play it.
Yeah.
And then I also noticed, which is probably even more of an issue on PS5, is like I feel like sometimes the game loads too fast, to where like the commentators have a hard time like keeping up with the game. And I just wonder if there's a fix for that. Like every once in a while, the commentator will be like, "Hold that thought, we're going on to the next thing." But there's been some times where like crazy play happens. Announcers react
like fly ball to right field, a diving catch, and they're like, "Oh, and Steve Finley's this really great player," and he threw him out. Like what?
Yeah, no, and basically a couple times happened where like the outfielder makes a crazy play, and I'm just like, I'm pissed, so I just hit XXX just to get out of it and get into the at bat, and then they're still like, "What a catch!" and I'm just like, I'm already at bat right now. Like, what are you talking about? So I just, and this is on the Xbox, so I imagine that could be even worse on PlayStation since PS5 just loads significantly faster.
Right, and it's built like it was built with the PlayStation loading system in mind. Like I mean, I'm sure they built it with both in mind, but at its core foundation is for the PS5.
Yeah, so I just wonder, like, if they can find a way to fix that, of just like that isn't just having them cut off, like, because that would be too weird if you just cut sentences in the middle of them and then load into that batter.
So we need to bring the broadcasters back and have them record some quicker lines for these load times.
They're going to have to go to AI broadcasters or something just to like go through that. But yeah, super enjoying that. The next game that I've been playing a ton of, I've actually had this game for about a month. Cat Cafe Manager. We were sent a review.
You talked to me about this when you first got it. I completely forgot you had it.
Yeah. So Cat Cafe Manager, I ended up getting a code from the developer about a month ago to review it, and it had like a very friendly embargo. I'm just not used to embargoes being like, "Hey, you have this game a month early and play it." Usually we get stuff embargo. It's like you have 2 weeks to play this. So this is exactly what it sounds like. This is a cat cafe management sim game. It's kind of in the vein of like a Stardew Valley, but not as in-depth or vast as a Stardew Valley is. So it follows the premise of you go and inherit like a relative's cafe, and the town that the cafe is in has a weird relationship with cats. Like they almost like worship cats, or the village is overrun with cats. So you adopt cats and run a cafe at the same time. So there are a bunch of different things you need to manage. And it being in that Stardew Valley Harvest Moon vein, you get to interact with some of the customers and build relationships with them as they come in. And you can get gifts from the customers and learn more about their backstory. Customers will then ask you questions that kind of help build your backstory and your personality as the shopkeep. So it's very standard in terms of these type of games. Like this is a management game, at its core with some relationships built on top of it. So the whole game, for the most part,
it's a Michael game.
Yeah, this exactly.
Game.
This is like
100% Michael game.
This is I'm just gonna chill out to this like kind of cutesy music. There's no real stakes involved. It's just I'm just managing my cafe. Like the only challenge really is expansion, is making the cafe bigger, adding more employees to it, and making sure you have enough supply to sell to customers. And there's so many.
Do you pay your employees a valid wage?
Luckily, as far as I could tell, they don't ask for wages. They just come in and work. Because the game has a bunch of different like
freeloader.
The game has a bunch of different like currencies to work with. So like they don't deal in traditional money. It's like there's fishermen, so they pay you in fish, and then there's like artists who pay you in art, and you just kind of get all these different currencies that you then use to design and expand your cafe. And there's different ways to expand it. So since they like worship cats here, they're like these cat shrines that will give you specific tasks you need to fulfill so you can unlock different decorations or the ability to add more employees to your cafe. So it's just a lighthearted kind of game. Like it's again, it's perfect kind of like chill out sort of thing. Like I don't feel challenged by it. I'm seeing numbers go up. I like seeing numbers go up. Like it's very satisfying when you're like, look at all those profits or look at all that fish or whatever. Yeah. So it's just managing your menu, making sure customers are served properly. And once you hire enough employees, you kind of could just sit back and just watch everything like unfold on its own, and kind of just be a lazy manager.
Yeah, like those tightened down versions of SimCity are great.
Yeah, especially when it's like, here's one specific building you were tied to. You were only in charge of this. Like there's a town map, but you don't actually travel to those things. You just go to like, it just jumps you to like a shopkeep window and it's just like, oh, hey, here's what we have today. Purchase it. And then you just go back to your stuff and then organize and expand. So I really enjoy stuff like this. It's like a $20 game on Switch. I believe it's on PC as well. This is just, it's a perfect handheld Switch game for me in terms of just like, oh, let me just get a little bit of time in here and then, just keep going forward with it. So while it's not as in-depth as like a Stardew or a Harvest Moon, for something that's just like, hey, you were in charge of this one cafe, it does a well enough job of keeping you entertained in working in this this one cafe. And it's got cute cats. Nice. That's the best part. It's got cute cats. I do wish, though, that the music was just there's a little bit more variety in music, because I kind of hear the same song. But just like with MLB, that MLB is really just like a vehicle for me to listen to podcasts to. And after about like a dozen hours in this game, this is a podcast game where I just listen to different podcasts. As soon as that podcast is done, put the game away and then just move on to the next thing. So,
do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing about a video game? Like that a video game is a good podcast video game?
I think it's a good thing just because, like, well, it depends on the person. Like, I listen to, I have like 30 podcasts that I'm subscribed to.
I am not humanly capable of multitasking like that, just for the record.
Yeah.
I don't think I could play MLB The Show and listen to something else. And I would just be so focused on MLB The Show that I would forget whatever the conversation was for like the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, but like, I don't have a commute. So, like, I need something if I want to listen to a podcast to do.
Right.
Because I don't know how...
I just don't think I can multitask like that. I couldn't absorb both those things.
But you could listen to a podcast and drive your car. You listen to talk radio.
Right.
So, and that's definitely one of those things, like, when I exercise, I like to listen to a podcast. Because the idea of just, like, I'm just going to be on this bike for 45 minutes and I'm not going to do anything else but ride this bike just doesn't do it for me. So, I having a game like this.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I guess I don't like the times that I get on the Peloton. I take a physical class like with an instructor, and then I will have like a baseball game on in the background, and I just periodically glance at that. But for the most part, I'm paying attention to the instructor because the instructor is instructing.
Yeah, but like in terms of like MLB and this isn't something that you need your full attention to. Like literally, if you want to just be like a lazy manager in this game, after you hire enough employees, you just, at the end of the day, you let the game run, like each day takes like 5 minutes, and you just, at the end of the day, like, okay, I'll clean this up, buy more supplies, move on, and let's see how the employees do the next day.
Could you run it for like 2 hours, not look at it?
No, it does make you hit X to advance the day. So
Okay.
You do have to hit X to advance to each day. But ideally, I could just look away, come back, hit X, come back, hit X every 5 minutes if I wanted to, if I was like a crazy person. Okay. Because in reality, all I'm really managing is just making sure there's enough supply and that there's enough employees to service all the tables.
Set up one of those bird beakers that dips down. Yeah,
and to see how many days I can get out of this game.
I'm just kidding. Like, you're not really playing a game at that point in time, but you're like, hey, I gotta go take a meeting. Like, let me just.
But that's when you test, like, how far does this game go? and to see how many days it has. But yeah, I'm really enjoying just having like a simple game like this. Again, it's like $20 on Switch and PC. I think it's worth picking up if you're into like these type of sim management games on like a smaller scale.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I'm just making fun just to make fun. I love anybody that finds a game that they find even 10 minutes of entertainment out a day. If it's something that gets you, to sign on, to turn your Switch on, to play that for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then play something else, like that's awesome. Whatever kind of gets your gaming warm up, or if it's just what you choose to do while you're watching the boring NBA playoffs.
And no, it's basically what I did yesterday.
Yeah.
I was like, the Sixers are blowing out the Raptors, so I immediately started.
The only one that's not boring is watching Kyrie Irving flip the bird to Boston.
Yes, that one I did not have to switch for the baseball game or running in the background. Watching the Bulls get their ass kicked. Oh, perfect time to bust out the Switch and play something else. I will say it's funny. This game did make me realize that my Joy-Cons have a little bit of drift. Just because I was like trying to navigate.
Oh no!
I was trying to navigate the map, and I'm like, why can't I turn to this part of the map? And it's because my Joy-Cons are drifting. So, luckily, I have a warranty that expires in like 10 days that I have to go run to a store and get it replaced. But yeah, that's it for me. Still watching Moon Knight. Still feel kind of indifferent about Moon Knight, where it's just like I like watching it at the time, but I'm not like anticipating the next episode. I did pick up Spider-Man on 4K Blu-ray or whatever the hell it's called, so I'm going to watch that. And then the Batman just released yesterday, so I need to rewatch that.
Yeah, I've got to like somehow like plan and set a date in my wife's like calendar for her to like watch Batman with me enough that she won't like be too tired and fall asleep at like 8:30 at night.
Yep, 3-hour movies will do that to you.
What'd you say?
3-hour movies will do that to you. Yeah. And though this one doesn't feel like 3 hours, or at least it didn't feel like it.
I'll just watch it tomorrow when she's at work, and she'll be mad at me. So
then you can watch it again and get 6 hours of your day taken by the Batman.
So, all right. So questions and comments using hashtag AskDigitalDays. You can send us those questions on Facebook, on Twitter. Post them in Discord. You don't have to be prompted for the questions. We don't do as great of a job as we always should do about asking for the questions. But if you think of a question, just post it. Like post it in Facebook, post it in Discord, tweet it at us. We'll Michael or myself will like it, and we'll add it to the agenda. So. Speaking of, Angela writes in a question: what classic video game character do you think that they could reboot? I saw this question on the agenda, and I was thinking about like, what's your definition of a classic video game character?
I think this old video game character or whatever.
Because I want, again, like I've been saying, I said it earlier in the show today, I want a new Ninja Turtles game.
You're gonna get one, kind of. You're gonna get the
Cowabunga collection.
No, the other one. There's the other Ninja Turtle games.
Oh, yeah, that they're still not dating, and they're doing even more marketing behind it. Like they're doing like a documentary for Shredder's Revenge, and I still don't see anything on it. But other than that, I would love to. I'm trying to think. Like, I played a ton of Nintendo, so whether it was Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. So I guess I don't really know what I want until I see somebody announce something. Oh, that's cool. I forgot about that. So it makes it kind of hard to answer. But what do you got?
So there's two. I would love to see Solid Snake get rebooted. Like, I know that's blasphemous, like, unless Kojima's doing a reboot. But I feel like it's too...
I got one now, but go ahead.
It's too iconic of a character to just let it die with Konami, and I feel like they can't touch anything that Kojima did with the character, because then, like, you can't expand on Kojima's Metal Gear universe. You would, if you're Konami, just have to reboot the Metal Gear universe. And I feel like if it can't be Solid Snake, like, Raiden was really cool in those games, and he only had one game, Revengeance, or whatever the fuck it was called. He could use a reboot. Like, if you're gonna just, like, pull a character from that franchise, do that. And then I know it's gonna sound weird, and also kind of blasphemous to people, Nathan Drake. Like, I feel like we're gonna get another Uncharted game, but I feel like at this point, I don't know if I want to see that Nathan Drake come back, but I also don't want to see Tom Holland Nathan Drake. So I don't know exactly what you do with Nathan Drake as a character.
Yeah, you want like age 25 to 35-year-old Nathan Drake.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what I want, but I'm just like, I love the Uncharted franchise because of Nathan Drake, but like they wrapped up his story. So I feel like when they come back to Uncharted, it's going to feel weird if they're like, you know how we said he was done? Well, he's back. Like, I don't know what you do.
Yeah, but I think there's enough gaps that they could do something really cool. Like this takes place in the time frame between 1 and 2. Like I think they could do something really cool like that. Or this takes place like after he met Sully, but before the events of 1.
Well, that's why I've been pitching like a Sully game forever since like Uncharted 2. Just give me young Sully.
Yeah. So I'll kind of piggyback on what you're saying a little bit. I want to see either a reboot or more of Cole's story from Infamous.
Yeah, no, Cole would be fantastic, especially...
Yep.
He kind of suffers from what Altair suffers from Assassin's Creed, where he was the first one and kind of generic, you know, to where like there's so much more they could have done.
He's got some possibility of some deep roots in there.
Yeah,
too.
and Cole, they did a better job of expanding his character in the second game, but there was still so much more they could have done with Cole if they want to bring it back for more Infamous.
And at a certain point in time, I feel like they were teasing a lot of stuff. Like when he was in PlayStation All Stars, like they're like, wait a minute, like the Infamous stuff is kind of done. Like why is he? You know, like they were kind of like marketing him still as like an iconic character.
And they teased him in Second Son. Like he didn't have a cameo, but they mentioned like Cole either by name or like, oh, that person in that whatever Seattle town was called in Infamous 2 or Infamous 1. Infamous 1 was like. No, Second Son took place in like a Seattle, and then Infamous took place in like New Orleans,
like a New York, and then but 2 was like the thing going from like DC to New Orleans. Like it was
there
moving,
you go.
I feel like. So.
Also, I don't know if it needs a reboot, but I just want to see Sly Cooper again. Like I just want anything Sly Cooper. If you have to reboot it, fine, but just give me Sly Cooper.
I really enjoyed that game that was on Vita.
Thieves in Time. Yeah, I just bought the PS3 copy off eBay because I couldn't find my copy, so I'm gonna probably play that.
How much
soon.
did that set you back?
Surprisingly, I found an eBay listing and only had it for like $18. All the other ones were in like the 40.
That's a great game for you to stream, by the way.
Oh god, streaming from PS3 is such a pain now. But yeah, no, I picked that up. But yeah, so give me more Sly Cooper.
Yeah. All right, and then Stefan Wren, kind of wrapping back to what we were talking about a little bit. Who's going to win the NBA championship this year? I don't care. Like no, but I honestly, like based on what I've seen and like some of the stuff that I've been watching, the Warriors are kind of scary right now with Steph Curry being healthy again.
Yeah, Steph Curry and Tristan Thompson being
what they did last night.
Klay Thompson.
Did you see what they did last night?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, it was like
they scored like 70 points in like 2 quarters.
Yeah, I think Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Poole had 84 points together. Like just the three of them.
Something crazy.
Yeah, I
sorry, Curry. You have to have talent.
Yeah, poor Raptors. They're getting beat by a bad team. I still think it could be Milwaukee. Like I think Milwaukee has a really good chance just because Giannis, like no one can really match up with him.
Boston looks tough. Boston
looked good, but I have a feeling they're gonna go 7 with Brooklyn and
yeah, they're gonna beat each other up.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna be wore out.
And the Bucks just have to sweep the Bulls, and then they'll sweep whoever's next. Like the Bucks have probably like the easiest path to the finals. So like I have a feeling the finals are going to be Milwaukee Golden State, and I can see there not being an answer. I know Phoenix, but like I don't like Phoenix. Like I know they're really good, but I just don't like Phoenix.
Yeah, I'm sorry. A healthy Warriors team is better than whatever the Suns can put on the court.
Yeah, the problem with the Suns is they have to hope Chris Paul stays healthy. Like that's like their biggest problem is like Chris Paul he's injury prone because he's beat up from being so damn good for so long. Yeah.
All right, so that is our show for this week. You can follow us on our main Twitter account at Digital Days Pod. That's where you can send your hashtag Ask Digital Days questions if you so choose, or you can just use the hashtag. You don't even have to add us. You can follow Michael at the first MJC. You can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. Facebook group, Discord server is all linked in the show notes. Patreon's down there. PayPal's down there. We are still looking for suggestions for Patreon stuff, either bonus content or just, and I haven't asked for this for a little while, and if you guys feel like it, that's fine, but just overall feedback on Patreon, maybe why you don't, why you do you, like some of you I know I've spoken to directly, some people just donate to Patreon because it's the easy way to support us, and they don't really care what the content is. But if you're not necessarily donating to Patreon because you don't think that $3 access to Discord is worth it, or getting the podcast 24 hours early is worth it, what would make it worth it? Or what also is there a different suggestion? Like, still a growing, evolving thing for us. It's not something that obviously that Michael and I do to offset our income. It doesn't do any of that. It just sits in a PayPal account. Literally, it sits in a PayPal account, and it's our rainy day fund. Like, hey, there's a new game coming out. We both want it. All right, let's buy it. Like that's essentially what it is right now. But we would love to possibly do more
for the podcast.
Pay some bills, So we none of us are reaching into our personal pockets to support DDG, and that is because of all the Patreon and your Twitch subscriptions and helping grow the podcast, etc. All of that is all in that bubble. So you won't hear me complain about server costs and crap like that. But if there's something else that we're not doing that you would like us to do that is tangible that we could possibly do with both of us working full time and having families and lives, we would love to do that. And I know the first thing obviously is streaming more. I get it. My life got turned upside down this last month.
Same.
I knew I was going to get a store. I knew I was going to get a store eventually. It came faster than I thought it was going to, and it's farther than I thought it was going to be. So there's contributing factors to it. But a possible overhaul to Patreon is always a viable thing. So I don't know if there's something that we're missing. We've toyed around with the idea of other kind of merchandise, but merchandise is kind of a pain in the ass. If you do monthly things and we're supposed to send you stuff out, somebody has to actually mail it, etc. There's a lot of things that are there. So maybe we do a one-time donation and one of you can come on the show with us. I don't know, I'm just throwing out things. So but I don't want to go on a big diatribe about that. So Patreon's there if you want it to be there. PayPal's there if you just want to throw us a couple bucks. Whatever. But other than that, I hope everyone has a great week and keep moving forward.
Be a dick. See ya.